evening and welcome to the 2025 Spruce Woods by-election debate. My name is Kerry Oriot. I'm the moderator for tonight's debate being held live here in Spruce Woods Community Hall adjacent to CFP Shilo. The debate is being brought to you tonight by the Brandon Sun, Brandon University, and Westman Communications Group. The debate will be broadcast tomorrow, tape delay on WCGtv. I think before we get started, it's important to begin public events with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the constituency of Spruce Woods includes both Treaty 1 and Treaty 2 lands. Traditionally, this was shared territory between Dakota Oyote, Anishinaabe, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Today, many other Indigenous people call Spruce Woods their home. We also welcome settlers from many nations. As we gather to choose a representative for this region to our provincial government, we reflect on the history of this land and the many groups who have lived here, who continue to live here, and who have come to live here. This history can help us understand the importance of dialogue and respectful debate today, and as we navigate overlapping perspectives to determine a shared vision for our future. So here's the format. We're going to start with each candidate having a minute to introduce themselves. The order of the opening comments has been selected randomly. Following that, our panel will begin by asking questions. The panel who will determine who's asking a question and in what order, so I will be deferring to them. Each candidate who's asked directly a question will have the opportunity to answer. The other candidates, give me a wink or a nod if you wish to chime in. Now, our panelists and I reserve the right to ask our own follow-ups if we think a question hasn't been answered to our satisfaction or just to seek more information. You'll note that I haven't discussed the issue of how long the answers may be, and simply that this is a debate and we want to hear what our candidates have to say. So if a question and answer go on too long or start to lose steam, we may move on to the next question. But if we're right in the midst of a discussion about a meaty issue, then certainly I think everyone in the room would benefit from letting that go a little bit longer. We ask that all the candidates and all the members of the audience, including their fans, be respectful in our interactions this evening. We reserve the right to ask anyone who's being disruptive to leave the premises. We have brought in some coolers. You want to be cognizant of that. So let's meet our panelists. We have first Alex Lambert, Brandon Sun political reporter, Brandon University professor Dr. Kelly Saunders, Brandon Sun columnist Devon Ross. After we introduce each of the three candidates, then we'll ask for you to give a little bit of applause for all three of them combined, and then I'm going to ask you to hold both cheers and jeers until we get to the end, if we could. So we're going to ask for an opening statement, and who are we starting with? I guess we're starting with Ray. We'll go in this direction, and then at the end, if you're comfortable, we can go the same way, and then we'll end with Colleen, so you get the final word. Okay? Ray, after you.
Good evening. My name is Ray Berthollet. I'm a proud Métis person living in Brandon most of my adult life. My previous employment is I'm on a leave of absence from the government as executive assistant to Minister Simard. Previous to that, I did an 8-year term with Sutton Realty as a realtor, and then about a 10-year term with WCGtv as a union advocate, union rep. Prior to that, I did a bit of time in Thompson as a probation officer and worked at the jail here in Brandon. So I've got numerous experience to deal with to help the residents of Spruce Woods constituency with problems, because most of my jobs entail taking great notes and negotiating and working with people to get the results that they desire. So that, in a nutshell, I guess, is my background.
Thank you very much. Stephen?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Reed. It's hot in here. I'm your Liberal candidate for this by-election. I was born and raised here in southwestern Manitoba. My family has very deep roots in the community as well. My father was deputy mayor of Brandon for 15 years. My grandfather, Jim, was the editor of the Brandon Sun, and my great-grandfather was mayor of the Swan River and a prominent educator with a school named after him. I've been an educator who has dedicated over 20 years of leadership and supporting families. I hold a master's degree in educational leadership from Brandon University and a certificate in leadership and management from Harvard Business School. I've served as a teacher, inclusion coach, and instructional coach, helping others develop their own leadership skills and instructional skills. Through my career, I have lived and worked in 5 different countries, learning the power of collaboration and innovation in order to strengthen communities. And I'm ready to bring that collaboration and leadership to this riding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Colleen?
I'm Colleen Robbins, the PC candidate for the Spruce Woods by-election. I'm a mother, a wife, and a nana. I was born and raised in Deloraine, Manitoba, and after graduating, I moved on to Brandon to become a nurse. Back then, there was no jobs to be found in Manitoba, if you can believe that. So off I went to Vancouver, where I had family there to support me. After 2 years of living in Vancouver, I wanted what I had growing up in a small rural community where my children can be safe and have fun, ride their bike to school. So I moved back to Spruce, being the fact that I thought it was central of many communities. After a back injury, I went on to be a business owner in Spruce. And from there, when I went to Sal, Saputo offered me a job. So my last career, quitting just before this by-election, was the food service rep for Saputo. I volunteered for many, many groups. And some of the ones that I'm most proud of are president of the Chamber of Commerce, being a minor hockey manager for my son's team, being a football manager for my son's football team, a director for Manitoba Crime Stoppers for the Westman area. And my most proud, and I'm still on the board, is when our soldiers went to Afghanistan. The founder and myself as the president decided we needed to do something for these veterans when they returned from combat. So we set up a non-profit organization to give them dinners out, movies, all sorts of things for their families and the couples. Once we pulled out of Afghanistan, we thought, what are we going to do with this organization? We moved on to Ottawa. The founder moved on to Ottawa. So what we did was we created a PTSD for our veterans and frontline workers.
Colleen,
Okay.
I'm sorry to,
That's fine.
and I promised myself I wouldn't cut anybody off on a timing, but at 2:11 you took almost a full minute more than the other two.
Okay, no problem.
That's how strict I am. Hopefully that's the last time tonight I have to bother anybody with it. So let's go over to our panel. And I understand that we're going to have Dr. Can I call you Kelly?
No.
This is not a good start.
Yes, of course you
It's
can.
okay. Earlier, I asked the candidates if I could refer to them by their first name. I have a terrible memory, and I'm feeling a little under the weather. And could I do the same with you three?
Of course.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Kelly?
Sorry, I couldn't resist,
Not
Carrie.
at all. Well done.
Thank you, each candidate, for being here. This is a really wonderful exercise in political engagement, so thank you. My first question is for Colleen, if I may call you Colleen. Colleen, you recently apologized for comments you have made previously on social media on a number of issues, including residential schools, your stated dislike of unions, and also in response to some comments from Donald Trump about the selling of Canada. In terms of the residential school situation, you claimed ignorance of the issue. And when it came to the issue of unions, you walked back from your previous comments. Can you please tell us why we should trust you when you say that your views on these things have changed?
Well, on the residential school one, I never say it didn't happen. I admit in that Twitter, I just didn't know the real education of how these schools began. And I was ignorant of that. We never discussed them ever growing up residential schools. And until it's come to light over time, education has brought us to where we are. Now, if I would have remembered that tweet, I would have probably went back to that person after I learned the reason residential schools were created and apologized for my ignorance of that subject. On the union, hate is a very strong word, and I very seldomly ever use that word. I believe at the time I was just angry for the fact that there was going to be 1 million elementary school teachers or kids left out of school for 2 years in a row on a rotation. And I was upset. We had just got a medical diagnosis for my husband. I believe I was angry at the time, just having all of that life-changing stuff in my mind and use that hard word. I believe in collective bargaining. I believe that we should hear everybody at a table. I was a union rep person, or not a rep, but I was a union member as a nurse. And that's all I can say about the union part is I feel that I was probably angry.
Kelly, do you have a... Okay, Devon?
This actually is for all three candidates. Could I just have a show of hands for which of you either deleted social media accounts or social media posts prior to tonight? Okay, so Stephen, if I could ask you, why did you do that?
Hello? Okay. I did have an exchange 2 days ago with a NDP supporter, and what that engagement was saying that the Liberal Party is attacking the NDP, and that my non-statement on Ms. Robbins' Twitter statements was being complicit. And my rebuttal to that was that, you know, as a leader, I'm not going to shoot things out into social media. And after the discussion we had, or the back and forth we had, I realized that I kind of got sucked in there, and so I deleted everything I said. And what I did say was just that. It was nothing disrespectful or anything like that, but I just didn't feel like that was the right place to vet that out. So if that person wanted to have an actual discussion with me, a phone call would be the right way to do it. So that is why.
Colleen?
Well, I did it right from the beginning, as soon as I decided to run, for the fact that I wanted to protect my family. There's cruel people out here, and they say cruel things, and I did not want my family to have to go through.
With respect, if I might, you were a nurse, you benefited from working in a unionized environment. You said you hate them. You talked about Ontario teachers being lazy. That was one of them that I read. Now and of course you made some comments about residential schools. So I have a quick question. Do you think you have the appropriate temperament to work together with some of the unions in our province?
I absolutely do think I can work with unions. Like I said, I believe in bargaining, collective bargaining, sitting at the table, listening to people, whatsoever. At that moment, I'm going to say my anger was not at that union. My anger was not at the teachers. My anger was more than likely at my husband's diagnosis.
Okay. Over to the panel. Well, hold on. I see that Ray wants to add something.
They missed me. I deleted a comment about Hillary Clinton, and I was congratulating them. At that time, there was, I think, OAC, and a bunch of them were talking, and I says, go get him, bitches. And it was suggested I delete that, so.
God awful. Over to the panel.
Colleen, you claimed ignorance on the residential schools. How can we trust that you won't make the same mistake again with ignorance potentially?
Well, you know what, on the residential schools, I'm learning all the time. I have watched, I've read, and I think it's horrific what happened and how it started. I would not have believed that ever in my life, that people would come and think that you can take a culture away from these children, and picking them up in their communities and taking them to the school and degrading them for years. I would not have ever guessed that our society could do such a thing, but I have learned from all of this that we definitely need to, when things happen in history, we need to learn it before we speak out. So without ever not knowing a full subject, I will never speak out again.
I saw Stephen raise his hand, and then we're going to go back to our panel. Go ahead.
So the only thing I'm going to say about this, I think we've touched on temperament and stuff like that. The tweets were put out in 2021, and the report for reconciliation came out in 2015. So the dates don't really align with not being educated on it. So I have to question that. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Stephen, this is a separate topic now. You've campaigned specifically on representing Brandon's North Hill, both with social media posts and handing out flyers to people. Why is this a strategy you're taking, and what do you say to the people who don't live on the North Hill?
Sure. There's a couple of things there, Alex, in your question. First off, no, I have not been specifically targeting Brandon North. I actually made 2 separate brochures for the rural constituents and one for the urban constituents, because north area of Brandon is very different from Rivers, very different from Oak Lake, very different from Souris. And the reason that I did that is because I wanted to highlight the fact that the north end of Brandon has been forgotten about since 2018 when they redid the lines. I heard that from so many residents up there, and I think we need somebody here in this legislative seat who understands that there's 2 different things. One is rural and one is urban, and that person needs to be able to bring those together. Thank you.
I like to, on occasion, throw in something to bring a little levity to the evening, maybe to take some of the heat out. So I'm going to start with this one. It's a quick test to see how well you know your riding. First person who raises their hand, it's very exciting. The first person, and this was not timed, my apologies, Stephen. The first person who raises their hand is going to be the winner to the question. They're going to have to answer it accurately. How many humps does Sarah the camel have? I saw it. No, it was Colleen. Got it first.
I'm going to go 2.
Well, I'm sorry. The answer is 1.
Oh.
This is an issue between, camels and dromedaries? But in any event, we'll have to let those 2 resolve that. Thank you very much. Now let's go back to our panel.
All right, so my question's for Ray. Last week, the NDP government announced that the province has added 200 net new physicians since taking office in 2023. Yet it was also announced last week that the Brandon ER did not have enough doctors to fill shifts and ensure that the facility would remain open and staffed on a 24/7 basis. This is at least the second time this has happened in the past 8 months in Brandon, and rural ERs are even worse off. If we have added 201 doctors in the past 2 years, where are they? And why are Westman ERs still experiencing doctor shortages?
Well, we've only been in power for 22 months. And in those 22 months, we worked hard to build up our capacity in healthcare. Okay? So we started so far behind because of all the cuts that the PCs had made. We struggled at the beginning, but now we got a bit more of a game plan going. So recently I was in Glenborough, and they have 2 doctors there now.
With respect, Ray, and you can't have it both ways where you're saying we came into a terrible situation. you can't blame us for the progress we're struggling with. But by the way, here's the progress that we have.
Well, I didn't
That
say,
seems to be somewhat contradictory, no?
I didn't say we were struggling. What I said was that this is what we're doing, okay? So, yes, there's some issues with doctors and healthcare professionals, but we are working hard to get those rectified. Like I was saying, there's 2 full-time doctors in Glenboro right now. 3 more were just hired at the Brandon Clinic through an LMIA with the city of Brandon. So it's a work in progress. And after 7 years of cutting and knocking down our healthcare system, it's going to take a while, longer than 2 years for us to get it back up to snuff.
You know,
Please.
Ray, with respect, you do realize that in 2016, the Pallister government inherited a government that was the worst in the country in ER wait times, worst in the country in diagnostic wait times. This isn't a situation that just arose over those 7 years. It was a situation that government inherited from a previous NDP government. Isn't that true?
I'm sure you'd know that because you were involved in the bureaucracy of the Conservative government at that time, but I wasn't as active as I am right now. So to give you a fair answer, I can't do that today, but has healthcare been has healthcare been 100% across any time period? No, I think that with the retirement of doctors, the layoffs, and lack of recruitment, it's affected probably generations or generational for doctors and healthcare workers. But right now, we've got 2,500 new net healthcare workers. So we are making some progress, but it's not going to happen overnight. We've only been in power for 22 months.
Thank you. Now, I saw that, Colleen, you raised your hand. You wanted to add some thoughts?
Well, I do, because our healthcare has never been in such a crisis, and it is a crisis. Last weekend, doctors, we needed 10 shifts filled with doctors to keep the second largest hospital ER open. Tonight, we have at 8 o'clock tonight, no ER open in Spruce Woods. We are in a definite crisis. Our paramedics are 28% short right now in filling positions. On Sunday, there was an accident on number 2 highway between 21 and Surus, and it took an hour for an ambulance to respond to this accident. And at the time, the person that told me lived across this road from this accident, that the paramedics did not know where they were going to take this patient. They were diverting from Brandon, our second largest ER, because they were overwhelmed there.
So I've got a question. Stephen, you haven't responded. And I've got, is this just an example of a Winnipeg-oriented government being out of touch with the needs of rural Manitobans? Or is it maybe a different question, which is to say, we've chosen to live in rural Manitoba, and I guess we should just suck it up. This is the way things work. We live out in rural Manitoba. That was our choice, and so we have to deal with it.
Well, thanks
Walk
for the
me through
law. So ER wait times in Manitoba are some of the longest in Canada. We have an average of 4 hours for a wait time in the ER. Now, let me tell you a story. I took my mother, Margaret, down to the ER about a month ago with stomach issues, and she sat there for 17 hours waiting to get in to the Brandon hospital. Our ambulance responses, we just heard about the hour that it took. Our average is 50 minutes, 50. We have a crisis, and the money that is getting put towards that crisis is going inside the perimeter, and we need some more out into the rural areas. Thank you.
Over to our panelists.
Yeah, I just have a follow-up for actually kind of both Ray and Colleen. Stephen, you're off the hook a little bit on this one. But, you know, I think a little bit of the exchange that we're hearing, and I think what really frustrates voters, is we've had years of NDP government, years of Conservative government. When one gets into office, they blame the record of the previous, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. This has been a perennial, the healthcare crisis has been decades in the making. Both of your parties were in office at various times throughout that. And yet we still see this blame game happening back and forth. I guess I just want to hear from both Ray and Colleen, perhaps. You have to stand by the records of your parties. Colleen, your party was in government for 7 years. And healthcare did not get better. In fact, if you talk to folks in the system right now, they'll say that things got worse with some of the decisions that were made during the Pallister and Stephenson years. And Ray as well. I mean, you know, previous administrations also, the Selinger government, going back to those years, decisions were made that have finally caught up to us. So I guess what voters are looking for is some real answers about what are we actually going to do to fix this crisis, and who is actually going to take ownership and leadership of this issue.
You want me to go first?
Colleen?
So I agree with most. Now, the NDP did have 16 years. Our government had 7 years in, like you said, and 3 of those years were in COVID, which gave us not such advantage with healthcare to be fixing. It was dealing with the situation of the day. But that's no excuse. And what I say is, if we go back to the 2023 election, 90% of that election was about health care and how the NDP had the plan to fix it. I have not seen any of that plan. I have not seen anything that has been fixed. I would say it's went backwards and gotten worse. So, you know, I have meetings set up, and I have a meeting set up with a doctor that sat on the Canadian Doctors Board and was the president of Doctors Manitoba. And I have a past CEO of Prairie Mountain Health ready to sit down and tell me what needs to be done. And so we're going to hear it from those people, the people that is important. Thank you.
Now, we also wanted to hear Ray's thoughts on this.
Yep. One of the first things that was done by the health minister when she came into power was to meet with all the hospital workers, was to meet with as many of the physicians as was possible. So they did listening tours throughout Manitoba. And one of the clear things in this listening was that the system was so beat down by the Conservatives. There were so many people that were leaving the healthcare system because of difficulty with their managers, the frustrations of working in difficult situations. So through this listening tour, there came some promises from our government that we would address the systemic problems in the government. But this takes time. We can't do it in 22 months. So whether you think we should have it all corrected overnight, it's just not real. So we have to be real when we're talking about situations like this, and let's give us a few more, another couple of years, because we're not going to solve all the problems, because there's always progress. There's always stuff. Healthcare is a changing department all the time. So we just need to keep working at it and keep progressing.
Ray, thank you. I saw both Stephen and then Colleen, and then we're going to go to the panel. But before we do, then I'm going to ask a question it's a burning question for me. Okay, Stephen?
Okay, thank you. I think one of the things that I think it was Dr. Saunders who asked the question. Well, in my class, my students call me Mr. Reed. So, anyway, I think what Kelly is highlighting is this fighting back and forth between PC and NDP. What we need in this riding, and in Manitoba specifically, is a third voice, and a voice that is going to fight for the people and not for party against party and that sort of thing. What I propose is bringing my collaboration, leadership, and communication skills to this riding and working with both parties as a negotiator. Thank you.
Colleen?
You said in your comment that you're giving fair conditions to the healthcare system that we had left them. We did not have the nurses union grade list Health Science Center. There were 6 sexual rapes in the last couple of weeks, and nothing was done. Nothing. And so they made a promise again this week, but Darlene Jackson said she is not confident that anything will be furtherly done until she sees it.
I just had a follow-up for Stephen. You said that you're a third party that can, like, you're not part of a major caucus, right?
I never said that, Alex.
But when you're only on the Liberal parties, there's only one current MLA. You would be 2. So
Yes.
what can you bring that would help healthcare?
Sure. So in the Manitoba legislature, the Manitoba Liberal Party has a very small caucus. It is Cindy Lamoureux, our leader. If I were to get in, that actually shines a spotlight on Spruce Woods because I am able to bring up issues and negotiate with people at the table and not fight the other NDP or PC MLAs for that time. So it actually, I see it as a bit of a benefit.
Okay, quick question. I'm going to follow up on that.
Go for it.
Before I ask my next question, the follow-up I have is the fact that we have 2 parties in this province, and voters have continually repudiated the role of the Liberals as a provincial party.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't they spoken clearly that in fact they embrace a 2-party system and that, quite frankly, they don't seek a third party?
You could look at it that way, but I think it's very important, and I do believe that in Canada, our parliamentary system does rely on more than 2 parties, and there is a very, very important reason for that. And the reason is people don't have to vote one or the other, and it's all or nothing, and that is the US-style politics and the way it is in the House in the United States. For there to be a 3rd, 4th, 5th party represented, or even independent, offers voice to the people of the riding.
Before I go to my fun question, I certainly hope that you're not suggesting our friends south of the border haven't got it all figured out. Fun question.
I haven't been taking any notes, Kelly.
I'm going to start with Ray. I think I've been pretty easy on you so far this evening, Ray. So what's the best bakery in Spruce Woods riding?
It's got to be the one in Surus.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Stephen?
Well, I like the one in Surus.
Okay.
I've been to the bakery over in Rivers as well, and it's very good as well, and they have excellent lunches and stuff there too, so I guess it's personal taste.
Colleen?
Well, I'm going to say Surus Bakery. It's got probably on an average Saturday in the summer 2 blocks of a lineup in the morning, and if you're lucky, you might get a donut, but you probably won't be.
All 3 of you are a great advertisement for why we should spend more time in Surus, so thank you. Now, we're going to go back to our panel.
Colleen, you used to be a nurse. So what specifically would you do to keep doctors here, get more doctors here, and get wait times down?
I look at the shortages across the country. So it's not just Manitoba. But I feel we need a way to have an incentive to bring them here. And maybe it's doing what Saskatchewan is doing for their nurses right now in lab techs. They're giving $50,000 for a 3-year plan to doctor in certain hospitals in the Saskatchewan Health Authority. Now, I think, you know what, 3 years, you've got them working there, they might fall in love with someone, they might get their kids, if they're already married, their kids in a school, in hockey programs or whatever, they don't want to leave. So then you've got them hooked there for life. I haven't actually sat down with the doctor that I'm going to sit down. He says he'd really like to sit down with me once the election's over. And I will sit down with him no matter what, because we need to hear what they have to say and what's the best option going forward.
Ray, you've got a, you'd like to add?
My suggestion is we continue forward with the medical school in conjunction with the U of M at Brandon University. And we've increased it from 10 to 20 spots. And that is how we are going to increase the amount of doctors. Because the focus there is to have our kids from the rural areas applying and staying here and becoming doctors in the regions.
So Colleen and then Stephen?
So you just said to increase the seats. You just increased the seats for the doctors, and Doctors Manitoba said your government never even consulted with them. They don't have enough doctors to train what they had for seats. And I know a local doctor for Surus, one at Brandon, and she is in Dauphin now because there was no room. And it wasn't because the seats, it was because they need the doctors to be able to be there to train with them.
Stephen?
Yeah, just to piggyback a little bit on that, seats aren't going to make all the difference. Yes, they do make a difference, and I think that program is wonderful. But we also need to recruit and retain in our rural areas through incentives, such as return to service or whatever that is decided is the best for the riding. But we also need to expand telehealth services for non-urgent care as well, and that'll alleviate some of the issues with the doctors. Thank you.
Back to the panel.
Okay, I have the next question, and my question is for you, Ray. Ray, the current NDP government is on record as supporting safe injection sites, but others have expressed concern over increased crime and drug in the area around such a facility. Would you support such a site in Brandon, and if so, where do you believe it should be located?
Well, I think the Premier's being very clear. There will not be a safe injection site in Brandon. So that's my answer.
Kelly?
Okay, but your government has also said that this is these types of facilities are part of an overall harm reduction strategy. So one's being planned for Winnipeg. Do we not have a drug problem in Brandon that needs to be addressed? And if not through a safe injection site, then what is your plan or your party's plan to address these concerns in Brandon?
And as I just previously said, the Premier has said that we're not having a safe injection site in Brandon, so.
Oh, okay,
So
maybe I'm not
that's-
communicating this clearly. But we do have a drug problem in Brandon that is in fact growing and getting worse instead of better. So if not a safe injection site, then how do you plan on addressing the drug problem in Brandon?
One of the ways we're doing that is through the transitional center with the John Howard Society. That's opening up here in the North Hill. And that's going to provide 24 units for wraparound services for people who have addiction issues, people who have many social issues. And it's a three-tiered approach where you work your way up through the system. They also have options for employment once you reach certain levels. So that would be the one opportunity. But yes, to say that there isn't issues with drugs in Brandon would not be accurate. There is issues with drugs in Brandon. So part of what the Premier has said, what the Chief of Police has said is we're not going to solve problems by putting everybody in jail because we just can't do that. Okay, so what we're also looking at is working with the Community Safe Wellbeing Committee and other committees in the city of Brandon. We're developing strategies that will help with not only drug addictions, but also homelessness and mental health issues. So again, it's a struggle, but it's happening, and there's a great group of advocates for it in the Brandon area.
Okay, Stephen, you want to weigh in?
I think just saying that the Premier said is not really going to help anybody. We need somebody here who's going to listen to the people of the riding. I do think we need rehabilitation programs to help people get off of drugs, and this is contributing to our crime problem. We need youth programs, preventative programs, and restorative justice programs. A couple of things that the NDP have promised are stricter bail with tougher Crown guidelines to keep repeat offenders off the streets, and what we're seeing is actually an increase in repeat offensive. Ray just alluding to the police and them saying you can't arrest your way out of crime. The NDP government gave $30 million for policing to squash out the crime, but that doesn't focus on the root cause. So we need restorative and rehabilitative measures to get these people off their drugs and off of the streets.
Colleen?
On the drug injection sites, we have one going up in Winnipeg just by a school, a high school, across from a high school. We've got mobile sites going all around, and he's saying that the Premier will not bring to Brandon, but he seems to think that this is his way of curing the drug addicts in Winnipeg, but not in Brandon, which I am glad they're not bringing it to Brandon, thank you. I have an experience. I have a stepbrother that lost his life in Vancouver to an overdose. And I have a sister that works in addiction center on Vancouver Island. And honestly, I would rather put my tax dollars towards treating these people, giving them a bed, giving them 3 meals a day, and getting them the life to get off the street and be somebody, rather than giving them the needle to go on and live the life that they are living today.
Colleen, I'm going to follow up by quickly saying you did not take advantage of the opportunity that was afforded you by your previous two folks here on the stand. They quoted a police chief who said you cannot arrest your way out of crime. And that police chief is an MLA in Brandon West. I understand he's a conservative. So that was very interesting. See a Liberal and an
we're
NDP
almost related.
quoting. In any event, over to the panel.
Just because you're conservative doesn't make you wrong, right?
You heard it. Act accordingly. I'm going to go over to the panel.
And this question is for Stephen. You're a teacher by trade. The Brandon School Division Board of Trustees recently rejected a proposal to establish a committee that would audit school libraries for books that committee members deemed to be inappropriate. The proposal was defeated, but the parental rights sentiment remains in Brandon and other communities. What is your view on the issue, and did the trustees make the right decision?
I'll speak as a teacher here. Teachers are not indoctrinating your kids with trans, lesbian, gay information. If we can indoctrinate your kids, they'd be wearing deodorant and showering, right? So what I have to say to that is the books are there, and they've been picked by our librarians and our principals in the schools, and those are there for kids who are looking for answers to help them out a little bit. It is not brought into the classrooms and taught. So thank you.
Deborah, would you like to follow up?
I'd like to hear what Ray has to say.
I agree with our Liberal friend here. I was at the meeting where the discussion and the vote happened about the LGBT information in books in libraries, and try to get a committee to be formed to selectively take the books out of that the committee didn't like, therefore banning the books. And it was resoundingly defeated, and I am grateful for that, along with all my friends, because the problem being is it's one big lie. We did not. The school division did not agree to allow just individuals come in and change the curriculum, nor did they allow people to come in and attack the librarians or librarian books. So I think that is a positive result.
Okay. I'm going to go to Colleen, or Kelly, did you want to weigh in first?
Yeah, I'd like to, and maybe I'm preempting Colleen making some comments on this, but I'd like to specifically ask Colleen her views on the parental rights issue, specifically in light of the fact that your party ran in part in the last election campaign on spreading, quite frankly, false information about what is being taught in schools, about trans and gender identity amongst kids, and that caused a lot of harm for a lot of families and a lot of kids across the province. And we're seeing the ways in which this issue, unfortunately, is causing harm for kids in other provinces such as Saskatchewan and Alberta. So I'd like to ask you, as someone who wants to be our representative from Spruce Woods, what are your specific views on the issue of parental rights?
Okay, I wasn't part of the government, and I have not really educated myself totally, but what I do know is simply the fact is I don't believe that teachers should be responsible, or our parents should be responsible for their children, not the teacher. The teacher in a lot of this situation was if the child went to the teacher and wanted certain things done for them, that it was going to be acceptable for the teacher to go ahead, was my understanding. I believe that a parent should be involved until their child is of adult age.
Okay. Well, Stevens, you want to share a thought?
As an educator, I don't know if I can say this more clearly. There is no way a student is going to get any sort of push towards being trans, gay, lesbian, etc., or change the chemistry of their body or whatever else is being suggested here. As far as teachers being responsible for children versus parents, as a teacher, I'm with my students 7, 8 hours a day. I am very responsible for them, and I am very involved in their community and their lives. But there is certainly no indoctrination going on here.
Okay, I have a question I'd like to follow up with, and it's,
Myself?
I'm literally seeking to learn here. Do you think this is going away, Stephen?
No.
Do you think we're going to keep seeing this?
Yep.
Okay. Fair, very fair point. Colleen?
And I want to make it straight that I am not against any gays, lesbians, whatsoever. I have lots of friends that are, and I am not for that. What it is the surgery part that was brought to our attention, that children were able to get this before.
Can I intervene here, please?
Please.
Colleen, I strongly recommend that you educate yourself on this
And I
issue,
will. I said that
as
at the
with
beginning.
the impacts of residential schools, perhaps amongst other issues. I will tell you, as the mother of a son who's a doctor and the sister of another doctor in my family, that these kinds of surgeries are not being performed in this province. No medical professional would perform these kinds of surgeries on minors. That is, in fact, against the law and the code of conduct that all doctors are required to fulfill in order to be licensed. I'm not done yet.
No,
The second thing that I would remind you of is, in fact, any lawyer in this room could tell you, is that children have rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and many families are not safe places for children to come out, to express their gender identity, to express their sexual orientation. In fact, many families, unfortunately, are not welcoming and are not safe spaces. For many kids, teachers or the school is the only safe place that they have. So I strongly recommend that you talk to teachers that are in the classroom, and even better, talk to children that are that have different gender identities, to see directly from them how they feel. And my daughter identifies as queer, trans, non-binary. I'd be happy to get you in touch with my daughter, and you could hear firsthand about her experiences growing up in the Brandon School Division. Thank you.
Please.
And I want to
We're-
make
we're-
it clear, I agree with you on 3/4 of that, totally. I would say on the surgery, I don't believe it's ever happened here. I honestly don't believe, and I don't believe it could happen, and I've always said that. But I honestly, I accept queers, I accept them all, and I have friends that are them. I have a campaign manager that is gay, and I have no fear of these people, and I do understand that a child needs to go, and when Stephen says he's with the child longer than the average parents in a day, that is true, that is honest, and I hope the kids can go to you with that. I absolutely, the only thing that I was told, and I'm, like you say, need educated on it, and I admitted it right from the beginning, that I do not know the total story on all of it, but this was one topic that was brought to me, and
At risk of exhausting this, I'm sorry, we're,
yeah.
Stephen, you're going to get the last word on this. You raised your hand.
You know, a lot of my points that I was going to say, Dr. Saunders brought up, so I think I'll back up. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Before we go there, one of my questions, and excluding the Spruce Woods Community Hall, what's the biggest hidden gem in this riding? Colleen, you got the last question. You're going to get to go first this time. Biggest hidden gem.
The most hidden gem in this riding?
Yes, excluding this hall,
Okay.
and I live in Brandon West, so.
Okay, I'm just going to be a little, and throw another Surus, is our peacocks in Surus. Is our hidden gem, and last year Global News came out and did a story across Canada on how we have our roaming peacocks.
Excellent.
And I welcome anyone to come to Surus to see them. They're fun.
This evening's turning into a Cirrus promotional. Stephen?
Yes, the peacocks are cool, for sure. Also, you know, our hidden gem is our lakes. I spend so much time fishing with my boys in Lake Wadapana, out in Oak Lake, down in the Souris River, so I can't really pick one, but our lakes and rivers are so important to our riding, and not just for fishing, but for, you know, everything else that they give to us. So definitely we have some of the most beautiful views from my boat off of the lake, and that's my answer. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ray?
I'd have to go back to Souris and say the swinging bridge. I mean, the Souris swinging bridge is one of the biggest attractions in southwestern Manitoba. It gets a lot of people there, and they go to the museum and spend money in Souris. So that is, I would say, one of the best.
I think the headline in tomorrow's Brandon Sun should say Cirrus kills it in heated debate. So let's go back to our panel for the next question.
Ray, it's been rather obvious that Premier Wab Kinew has been pulling out all the stops in this by-election, a flurry of announcements, spending announcements, ahead of him calling the by-election. And driving around the riding, there's a lot of Wab Kinew signs out there, and at one point I drove around the riding counting the Wab Kinew signs compared to the ones featuring your name. And there was quite a few more Wab Kinew signs. There was 4 times as many. And so with that in mind, it seems to indicate that the Premier is just as much on the ballot as you are. If Spruce Woods chooses to vote for the NDP this time, will it be you representing the riding or the Premier?
Tough question, Ray.
Well, it's obvious. It's Team Wab, right? On my signs, we got Team Wab. On his signs, we got Team Wab. Okay? So Wab is one of the best promoters of rural Manitoba that we have. Okay? He's a hunter, he's a fisherman, he travels outside of Winnipeg when he can. He was born outside of Winnipeg. His wife has a doctor's business outside of Winnipeg. So, yes, but you know what? The Premier also says, I really want Spruce Woods to be part of our team, part of the team that represents all of Manitoba. So when we're talking with the signs, we're talking also with the communication with the people. The Premier travels and visits everybody and talks to everybody and communicates with everybody. So he is one of the preeminent spokespersons for the province. So it only makes sense that the Premier would want to be out here and supporting us.
So, Colleen,
Okay, now-
you wanted to share a thought, and then Stephen, I saw you did as well. So, Colleen?
Well, I find that very funny that I haven't seen Wob here hardly at all since this by-election. A couple weeks before this by-election, he shows up into Spruce Woods and offers infrastructure projects that was already in a 5-year plan before he took government. He delayed them, he canceled them, and now is redoing them. Just like the Holland Bridge, for an example. He came to Spruce Woods twice in July to announce this new bridge he was going to build that was already built by the PC government. He didn't find rural Spruce Woods until this by-election came upon.
Okay, Stephen?
I think the focus shouldn't be on whether Wob Canoe is running or not. I think that's pretty clear that Mr. Berthelot really believes in his Premier, and I worry if he would step up for people in this riding against Mr. Canoe if there was something that Mr. Premier Canoe was proposing that didn't benefit us. But what we really need to focus on is not this back and forth of he did this, he did that, we did this, we did that. We need a leader in this riding who is going to be the checks and balances between the PC and the NDP party who are saying cuts and promises. We need somebody in the middle to do that.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the panel. Although, Colleen, I am struggling because, infrastructure repairs, that's exactly the kind of spending that I'd love to see Spruce Woods, in fact, all of Western Manitoba get. When I drive on our highways, whether it's number 10 to the border, certainly heading up towards Clear Lake, I don't have to talk to you about highway number 2. Shouldn't we be embracing the fact that this money is finally being spent in our riding, or in your riding?
Absolutely, I'll take every little bit of it. Let's just make sure it happens. But some of these projects are not promised till 2029. That's 4 years from now. Number 2 highway has potholes that somebody is going to, well, we had an accident on Sunday, but it's going to be a major life-threatening accident if it doesn't soon get fixed properly. They don't have to 2029 to get it done. We need to do it now. Number 5, we need to get more RTEC standards put in place for these highways. We have farmers, we have industries that need to move their product. We need highways that they're able to use, not keeping them till 2029.
Okay. Well, absolutely, by all means, if you want to weigh in.
I'm not sure where she gets 2029 from, but I can tell you that in our conversations with Minister Simard and his group, that 2 to Delow is a priority, not only for me as your new MLA, but also for the Minister of Rural Affairs and Minister of Infrastructure, because it is in bad shape. And we know it's in bad shape. But you know what? For 7 years, they did nothing. So how do you say it's just us? It's not us. We've only been in power 22 months, but we're going to do what we did on 18th Street. It took us a year and a half to clean up 18th Street, and now 18th Street is smooth, right?
Right. With respect, it took an awful long time to build 2 bridges in Brandon. An awful long time, and about 3 times the projected budget, and that all took place under the Dewar-Sellinger. So we want to talk about working together. We should also have our eyes open to the realities. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know if your dates are correct, but Carrie,
They are.
I know you quite well. So I can't speak for the Dewar government. I wasn't part of it, but I can tell you I can speak. I'll have a position at the table with the other government MLAs and ministers if you elect me as the MLA. If you don't elect me as the MLA and you elect one of my two competitors, then I'm not sure exactly what will happen. Sure, there'll be...
My sense is, excuse me, Ray, I'm sorry, gone on a little bit long. Stephen, I understand you might have a thought. I saw you raise your hand.
All right, so I said this in the Cirrus debate. You know, Ray has said over and over again that if an MLA is elected that is not NDP, doors will be shut to the Premier and the ministers.
Not quite what I said.
No, you said that the other day. You said that in the Cirrus debate, and it's well documented in the paper. So let me say this to people. Is this the kind of government you want running the province? One that is closing doors to the ideas of the people of the riding? I don't think so.
Colleen? Please, Colleen?
Another debate thing that Ray had came back and said that all the PC government does is petition, petition, petition for infrastructure. Well, Grant Jackson did have many hundreds of signatures on for these highways to be fixed. And he made a joke that these petitions aren't heard from his government. Well, these people signed this to be heard. It wasn't a joke.
Very strong words indeed. Over to the panel.
So questions for Stephen. Manitoba Hydro is at risk of not generating enough electricity to meet anticipated demand within the province by the end of this decade. Other than proposing 600 megawatts of new wind power from Indigenous-owned wind farms, the Manitoba government has offered no solutions to the problem. What would you do as Spruce Woods MLA to address this issue?
Okay. So to address the issue, we need to open up business in Manitoba for these people to come in and do their business and provide this energy. One of the barriers that we have in Manitoba is we have a lot of red tape, and the NDP government has, in 2023, eliminated the Red Tape Accountability Act. What that did is pull investment out of Manitoba, economic investment. If you look at the Canadian Federation of Independent Business report, 2023 we had a B+ for regulatory performance. Right now we have an F grade. I don't know how else I can explain it. We need to open up these ways to get in here and cut the red tape in a real, honest, and real fashion. Thank you.
Ray, you've got to follow up. Okay, here, I'll give you one. I'm struggling that the Premier Canoe, further to Deverin's question, has essentially said, listen, we're going to reject all deals that had previously been discussed with private wind farm builders. Why do we care who we get the electricity from if the bigger issue is that we need the electricity? This just feels like ideology to me, Ray. Can you help me feel better about this?
Well, the Premier's comments were directed to nation building. And he believes strongly that by doing that, we are enhancing the economic viability of reserves and Aboriginal communities, because and the Métis, because that's who will be doing the investing, and that's who will be reaping the benefits, along with the province getting the electrical production.
Back to the panel.
Just wanted to follow up on that. After the Smith government was elected in Alberta, they shut down $34 billion in private power projects that may have been interested in coming to Manitoba because we have sun, we have wind. To the three of you, if you were elected as MLA for Spruce Woods, would you advocate for such a step, bringing private power producers to Manitoba?
Okay.
And any of you,
Anyone
step
can
up.
weigh in, please,
Okay, sorry.
please.
Okay, I'll go first then. My promise is to listen to the people of the riding first, but also listen to the experts, and the experts that are around the table for economy, for the way this affects our environment, etc. We need to take all this information into account and stop walking party lines for the answer. What we need to do is get the answers from the professionals and the people who know and implement that.
And I would agree. I would also agree with that for the fact that you have to sit down and learn and find out what they're going to bring and what our constituents want, and work together as a party for all parties on the situation.
Okay. I've got a quick question, not as much fun. Where should the next new school be built in the riding? So let's start with Ray.
Well, the next new school has already been decided. It'll be built in Brandon. So
Which riding is that? Which I'm asking.
it'll be built in the Brandon West riding.
Okay. So in Spruce Woods.
Oh, in Spruce Woods. Okay. Probably with the amount of construction in the North Hill at Brandon here, it would be something I would ask the Education Ministry to look at to see whether what is the most feasible place to put it, whether it be the North Hill or another larger community in the Spruce Woods constituency.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Stephen.
So as an educator, I think I know the answer, and as I knock on doors in North Brandon, I'm confirmed that I know the answer. We need another high school in Brandon, and that high school needs to be up on the hill. The reason for that is, I work at Vincent Massey High School. We're bursting at the seams. Teachers don't have their own classrooms. We're teaching in closets, things like that. That's happening in elementary schools too. But the problem is, a good portion of my class and my sections of classes are bussed into Vincent Massey High School. That is, again, bursting at the seams. We have a population in the north of Brandon that is large enough to fill a school and large enough to take that amount of people into the school, whether it be a high school or an elementary, but my push would be for a high school. Thank you.
Colleen?
Well, I definitely look at where it is needed. I'd have to sit down with the education minister. I'd have to sit down with the trustees and all the school trustees and all the Spruce Woods. But I would think that it would be Brandon North, as a lot of our rural towns are shrinking, some are gaining, but I would think that Brandon is bursting at its seams in the high school sector.
Quick question then, and this can be a yes and no if you'd like. Given the fact that all three of you said you defer to the Minister of Education on this, should we then get rid of all the school divisions? The Dewar-Selinger government dramatically reduced them in number, so should we just get rid of them? Save money, eliminate local controls if all the decisions are going to be made in Winnipeg?
Okay. No. So you cannot have a blanket approach to education. Education is somewhat specific to the area. The needs of the children in schools are different by neighborhood, not just district or division. If we don't have a board sitting there helping to direct the Brandon School Division, Southwest Horizon, et cetera, then we're going to get one more example of centralization into Winnipeg that we do not need.
Colleen?
I would repeat the question again.
I don't know that I can.
Oh,
I was
okay.
on a heater there. But I am going to simply say that if we're going to have all decisions made in Winnipeg, and all three of you defer to the Minister of Health, should we just then get rid of school divisions
Well, Minister of Education, not Health, but
as well? Well, I mean, this isn't a single question.
No.
I know, I'm trying. I
No,
look bad there.
absolutely not. I believe that we need to have our divisions, rural schools, high schools, elementary, everyone has their different needs and different areas of education for all, and I don't think there could be one.
Okay.
And I would hate to see that happen, because then I think everything would be in Winnipeg and
Right.
we'd get nothing.
I believe the school divisions are extremely important in each region of the province, not just in Brandon, but because they provide the resources, the direction, the guidance to the teachers and to the principals as we look through the province. So I would say, yes, we need school boards.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to and Colleen, thank you very much. I told the candidates at the start that I promised I would make at least one mistake tonight. Colleen, you caught me. Minister of Health versus Minister of Education.
I didn't defer to the Minister of Education. I deferred to the
Minister of Health? Gotcha.
Yeah, Minister of Health. Yeah. But to the team, yes. So
Let's go over to our panel. Thank you, guys.
This is for all of you. I'll ask Ray first. It's a little bit of an easier one. Why do you want this job? And what's one thing you will commit to tonight?
I want the job because I'm a compassionate, caring person who wants to look and help the people in the constituency. And I believe it's much more important to be able to do that as an MLA in Spruce Woods constituency. What's the second half?
What's one thing you will commit to
Okay,
tonight?
well, I've already made the commitment. I made the commitment to prioritize, sorry, I need some water, the Souris Highway to Delo. I'm going to work very hard on that, and that's a priority of mine, and I can commit to that.
Okay, Stephen? Just go right down the table.
Okay, so why am I running for this? Like I said earlier, I have a very strong family history, so I feel that pull for public service, one. Number two, I have studied leadership my entire life, whether it be through educational leadership, business leadership, or just leadership. I outlined my education in the opening statement, and I have been working with teachers and leaders for multiple years to solve problems and get the best results for people. I would like to translate that into this position because I see this riding as one that's here or there. And unfortunately, it's not going to work that way to the benefit of the people. We need somebody in the middle who is going to listen to both sides and take the actual right approach based on facts, data, and science. One thing I commit to is just that. Never speaking without understanding, always listening, and referring to the experts and to the people in the writing.
Thank you. Colleen?
I will be a strong voice for Spruce Woods. I will listen to each and every person. Whether you voted for me or not, I will be there for you at the table. I will take this to the ledge, and hopefully, if it's working with other governments, if they will, I will work with us, the PC party, and the government of the day. So also my commitment I'd like to make today is to educate myself before I speak of something that I totally don't understand. And I apologize for that tonight.
I've got a question. I'm going to start with Ray, because if elected, you will be on the government side. But I'm going to go to all three of you, and that is that Assiniboine College's North Hill campus is among the largest provincial assets in this riding. In fact, it's the only post-secondary institution in this riding. It's been over 20 years since it was determined that the college would expand at that location. However, progress has been, dare I say, slow across both NDP and Tory governments. So if you're elected, I know you indicated that your priority one was a highway. What are you going to do to accelerate the timeline for development of the campus?
I believe that the announcement by the Premier that we were going to totally fund the AC for their expansion for the agricultural area that they're developing is a big piece to start. Yes, the federal government was to kick in money, and that was what was holding it up for a number of years. And we've just decided we're going to foot the bill and let's start the construction, because with inflation and everything, the construction keeps going up. So let's get at it, and that's what we're looking at doing.
Stephen?
I actually had a meeting with Mark Friesen, the president of AC, about 2 weeks ago when I was on the campaign trail here, and they have some amazing stuff going on at that college. I said to Mark, like, when he took that college over, it's not the same college as when I went there for hospitality and tourism in 1999. He has expanded the programs and the student population so much. We need to advocate for investment and to get those dollars that were promised. And what I will do is be the person who kicks down that door and makes sure that the NDP government are held responsible and accountable for the money that they have promised.
Okay. Colleen?
I definitely would advocate for more education, a secondary university college for the ACC. I took my LPN in 1984 here. It was a wonderful program, and it was great because moving from a small town to Brandon, being a smaller city, I fit right in and enjoyed my school years. My son just recently graduated with the journeyman's certificate here at Brandon for plumbing, and he is a journeyman plumber now. And again, living just 30 minutes out of Brandon, he was able to take his subjects without having to worry about a residence that we're so short of in Brandon. And it makes the cost of education much cheaper. So I would definitely advocate for it.
To that point, the last two speakers did not indicate when they said their commitment beyond to something that would be a hard infrastructure or a hard investment. So can I ask you if you'll make that into your commitment, number one, given the size and the scope of that project, and as important as you indicate it is?
Yes, well, I would sit down with the ACC president and see where there is a need for whichever progress. Agriculture definitely is one that we live in an agriculture area, but there's lots of needs of others, and I would definitely be there for them.
Now, Stephen, I'm sorry, Kelly, we only have time for one question. Have you got a quick one?
No, not really.
Have you got a 5-minute question?
I'm a professor. We talk lots.
Yes, but you say everything that's important.
I do have a question about agriculture.
Go.
But if,
yes, let's hear it.
Okay, so this question is for Colleen, but certainly Stephen and Ray as well. You're all welcome to join in. Just last week, Premier Canoe called for immediate action from Ottawa following a sky-high levy placed on Canadian canola seed imports to China, and called on the Prime Minister to work with the Manitoba government on a plan to negotiate an end to these tariffs. Should Manitoba be doing more? Can we be doing more to protect our canola farmers out in this region? And if so, what?
Well, I believe, yes, we can be doing more as a province. We could be out there trying to sell our canola to other than just China. Let's look at other avenues where we could be taking it. I know some of the other premiers have been in Mexico trying to sell our canola. I'm not totally educated on everything on the canola bit, but I do know it's hurting our farmers, and we need to do as much as we can to make sure that this affect. Ontario just put some money in to help these farmers. We could be doing something like that for the interim while we're looking for new markets.
Stephen?
Yeah, I think that Prime Minister Carney and the federal government has been a great example of this, reaching around the tariffs and partnering with other countries, and I do agree with that. I do believe we need to lean on our federal government to help us out with that as well, if we are looking to sell to China. And I haven't mentioned party all night, but I do know that as a Liberal MLA, I will have a phone call to the people in Ottawa. That's answered quite easily, and I can have that conversation.
Ray?
Only last week, our Premier Rob was meeting with the canola producers and was talking to them and speaking to the government at the same time, the federal government, Carney, saying that they need to come forward and support all our canola producers. So I think that's a very positive step.
Kelly, do you have any follow-up? No. Okay. So, you know, we're going to do something a little bit different in tonight's debate. We've asked a lot of great questions. We've had a lot of great answers. We've had a couple of mistakes. I'd like you to make and we're not going to do closing statements because everybody writes them. They all sound the same. I'm going to ask you to make an elevator pitch. And I'm going to give you a minute. This one I'm going to time. And your elevator pitch is to me as a newly residing resident of Spruce Woods. Sell me on why I should vote for you. I'm going to start with Ray. You got to go first last time. Colleen had to go last. I want Colleen to have the last word. Ray, go. Work with me.
I am. Okay, so I would be saying somebody who's a new resident in Spruce Woods would be very similar to me, because I moved to Spruce Woods in October. I moved up to Monterey Estates, okay, and that was my first residence in that area. Previous to that, I lived in Brandon East and Brandon West. So I would talk about all the great cultural attractions, all the great farming events, all the great summer fairs, all the great people who live in the riding who are willing to come and talk to us and be friends. Monterey Estates has probably 250 people there, and we are chatting with them all the time. They're great people. So, and when I go to the other communities and knock on doors and listen to what they're saying, they are great people there too. So it doesn't matter what community you're in. I think that is probably the best we can look for.
Okay, so I probably didn't word the question well enough. Sell me on why I should vote for Ray.
Vote for Ray.
Ray and I have a long-standing friendship, and I always find him succinct and to the point, and I think it's terrific. Stephen?
Okay.
Sell me.
Absolutely. So one thing that I will say to you is we need to look at who the candidate is, especially provincially. The voice within that legislature needs to speak for the people out here and the people within the riding. We need someone who is going to be steadfast, clear, and a leader for our riding. And if I look at my other two opponents without bashing, I mean, I do have an opponent who speaks before understanding, and I have another one who kind of says what the Premier says, right? So we need somebody who is going to be the voice of reason, also listen to the people of this constituency with the skills and the education to do so.
Thank you very much. Colleen, sell me.
Well, Spruce Woods is a beautiful community. It doesn't matter where you live. We've got great people in each community, busy. Like, I would like to be there for each and every one of you, whether you live in Brandon North or Surrey, Manitoba, or Glenboro or Holland, and all between. I will be your voice that will take your concerns to the government. And the government of the day, I will hold them accountable for each and everything. They said that they were going to make things affordable. I'll make sure that they can stick to it, because they sure haven't been doing that for us yet.
Thank you very much, Colleen. And I'm going to say all of you were very, very prompt. You know, generally we we have to tell people to hurry up when they, and that felt like it was from the heart. So I think I would do that again as a closing remark. Thank you very much. And at this point in time, we're about 5 minutes away from when we would normally close. So, why don't we close it a little bit early? But I'd like to start by, I guess finish as well, but start my comments by saying that this concludes our debate. And I'd like to start by thanking the candidates. I know that it's difficult to be up here. It's difficult to be here and difficult to be there. I can't imagine being on the receiving end of some really tough questions. And I think you all handled yourselves very well. I think our panelists did a great job tonight. They had their questions were tough and fair, and I think we all learned a little bit tonight, if not a lot. I'd like to thank the audience coming out here on a warm Wednesday evening. You probably have other things you could do. It's Wednesday, yes? Okay. It's busy, and I'm seeing papers, and coming out tonight and showing your support for these candidates and your interest in keeping our democracy going strong. So I really appreciate that. So I'd ask you to clap for yourselves if you would. Brandon Sun, Brandon University, and Westman Communications Group always are here to provide the forum for a debate. When we thought of a debate for the folks of Spruce Woods, Brandon Sun immediately said, we want a leadership position. The university wanted to be part of it. Westman Communications wants to be part of it. We can't do what we do without the support of those three institutions. So then let's clap for them. So think about what you heard here tonight. Do your research. Make sure you get out and vote August 26th. It's now 8:26. August 26th. And thus concludes the evening. Thank you very much.